guess something slightly different than usual. I guess in a way. Are we good to go? Are we good to go? I can't tell. Are we good to go? We certainly are. There we are. It took me a while to get there, but we got there in the end. Yes, I actually have returned to today to actually watch some Serial Experiments Lain, which is a show by all accounts I should have watched years ago, but by all accounts, I was just really terrible at keeping track of things to watch. So yeah, it's one of those shows I've always wanted to watch, but haven't got around to it because it's one of those ones that I guess it's kind of one of those ones that you actually have to get to a point to actually kind of like appreciate it, I guess. And having now kind of like, I guess, survived most things when it comes to other animes, I'm like, you know what, it's a good time to actually watch it. But actually kind of, I've done a degree in film. It doesn't actually give me any leverage to actually cover this show, but yeah, I haven't actually kind of watched this show before. I believe it had syndication over here, like when it first came out, I believe, if I remember correctly. It had a syndication over here, but by all accounts, I was too young. I was like, what, 5 or 6 when this show came out? So now, having actually experienced pretty much most things in life, I was like, you know what, let's just watch this show. Actually experience it. And experience it together as well, to be honest. I thought streaming it would be the best option because it'll be, boy howdy, does it seem like an interesting show. So I was like, by the way, yeah, having now done a film degree, I could probably actually watch Serial Experiments Lain. It's like, no, probably not. Oh man. Right, I need to get to the top now. Yeah, I should actually preference the stream, but I haven't actually watched this show yet. I do need to watch it. I actually have always wanted to watch this show. That's the one. Right, I do believe with that we actually are good to go. Are we though? Yes. Hello, hello. Wait, so 1998. I was 2 years old when this show came out then, so it must have got syndication. I was about 6. I do remember the show being on TV. It's around the same time over here when Wolf's Reign and Fullmetal Alchemist 2003 kind of came out. I do remember it had a syndication over here. I think it was on Rapture. Was a channel over here we had anime on. It's how I used to watch most shows. But I believe I missed this one because it always looked kind of like, I was like, can I watch this show? Though I watched Fullmetal Alchemist completely fine, and Fullmetal Alchemist by all accounts is pretty scary for a child. So don't trust me. Alright, hopefully this actually does work. Oh shit, we're going. It's working, boys. It's working. Alright. Let's actually start this thing in 3, 2, 1. Let's start this thing absolutely now. Oh man. Oh man, the opening. I think everyone knows the opening by now. The opening's iconic. But yeah, I always kind of, it's been one of those ones that I was like, you know what, I have to watch it at some point. But I never knew the time to watch it. But I think after kind of like experiencing a lot of things like film and stuff like that, I kind of got to the point that I want to actually watch it. You know what I mean? It's you get to like a point that you kind of like, yeah, I can probably watch that now. So that's why I kind of just thought to myself, you know what? I saw it cheap on last week, I believe, and I thought, you know what? Let's watch this. Let's buy it and watch it. So I completely forgot we actually got a Blu-ray release over here of this. I believe it actually came out as the anniversary came out, I believe. That's why I remembered. I was like, oh yeah, Lain's got a Blu-ray release. Man, oh man. It does actually hold up pretty well, to be honest, the animation, the opening. Though I do get the actual Blu-rays are quite crispy when it comes to resolution, but it does hold up quite well. I do actually also want to watch Hibine Renmei as well, but that's kind of not on Blu-ray, I don't think. Over here, at least. I think it's on DVD only. So what I'm hoping for is actually it's in Japanese. I did actually set the Japanese. Also, my headphones are actually working. Yeah. I check now, not beforehand. Yeah, it's working. When I was a kid, I used to just watch Outlaw Star, Cowboy Bebop, and Full Alchemist and Dragon Ball Z when I was a kid. All of those. Outlaw Star was like the top tier as well as Cowboy Bebop. Either this transfer is really good or the animation's really freaking good for the time, because God, it still holds up. It does kind of feel like that. I guess it's around that same era that most shows kind of felt like that kind of like techno future kind of thing. God damn. Hello, hello, how's it going? Oh no. The actual character's really good in this show so far as well, to be honest. And 90s was so good when it came to like shot construction. It's very atmospheric because it doesn't really tell you it doesn't really specifically tell you anything so far just from dialogue alone. It sort of just tells you most of what you need to know just from the use of like body language and stuff like that, and also the use of like title cards, which is very kind of cool. It's never give you like the whole entire answer just from dialogue, which is kind of what you need. I think Hellsing got a syndication over here as well, if I remember correctly. The original one did. Ultimate I don't think did. I think the original one did. I guess it's also came at a time when technology is actually getting to the point that it's becoming more of a more prominent in society as well. Oh, I know about the game actually, but yeah, it's very rare. Would love to own it one day, but I don't think I'll ever be able to. Bro. I guess it kind of presents kind of like a world, like, it just kind of feels disconnected. I guess in a way as well. It does kind of feel like that. Even Lain herself kind of feels like she's on the outside, so to speak. Karen's really open to Silent Hill 2. Same thing does actually happen in Silent Hill 2 as well. If I remember correctly. Man. computers like that. Bro. If only they existed like that. If they're actually that small as well. That'd be cool. Oh no. Yeah, it's one. I guess this technically did feed into the whole entire like notion at that point. The idea of like the fear of like the techno future fear as well. Can't really actual term for it, but it was actually kind of like a lot of media tapped into the whole entire notion. The idea of actually not knowing what's going to come and actually what it can in theory do. Uh-oh. But why it got there? That's the real question, but why it got there? But yeah, I kind of imagine, like, every single, like, I think every single advancement in humanity kind of had, like, a genre of, like, of not knowing what would actually come of it, because we didn't really know what would happen. The 50s had it, the 90s had it as well, I guess the 80s as well, kind of. Would not know how to react to that actually if it had an email that might actually summon a demon or something though. So let's hope we're actually okay when it comes to mail. Bro's got a sound card. Do you remember those? Or was that video card? I can't remember. It might be a video card as well. Just gonna say, do you remember video cards? They still exist. Sound cards, not so much. I mean, I guess it's kind of hinting his idea of like the futurism as well, because of actually how many computers this dude actually owns, as well as screens. Like, bro. Oh, I know what this show's doing. So say, because Silver Case did this as well. Silver Case actually did the exact same kind of plot in one of the actual episodes. It would be, I think, wouldn't it? Windows 95 was the cool shit back in the day as well, to be honest. 98 was the peak. XP was great. 7, good. 8 was a catastrophe, and 10's a catastrophe as well. Though, to be honest, what is kind of scary is actually how, like, how you can actually almost attribute this to today's society as well, in a way. Which I guess is kind of like the thing with like anime and movies like this. Actually, a really cool shot as well. Anime and movies like this and actually kind of stay current because of actually how we connect to society as well, and actually how it doesn't differ from how it was back in the day. It's more apparent now and actually even more scary. We've had advancements since 1998, don't get me wrong, but still though, it's like you can still attribute a lot of the fears that people have in this era to today's era as well. That was scary. Yeah, essentially. I can understand where the praise does come from, because it does really feel like a it's not so much a time capsule because of actually how it can very like work in today's kind of universe as well, but it just you can understand completely the anxieties people had back then, which is why I kind of always appreciated stuff like this. Because we've advanced to the point that stuff like this isn't so much a problem, but it is kind of still. But it's actually great to see when it actually was so primitive that the fears were so more apparent. Actually, how one can view like the wired world as the paradise, the actual escape from your own life, essentially. It's very kind of cool. The direction of this show is fantastic. Like, God. It's so good. Because it does kind of feel like the paranoia era of like everything, essentially. The paranoia era is more the 50s than the actual 90s. But it kind of captures that kind of level of like paranoia of not knowing. Bruh. I can see that, to be honest. It's kind of really well captured as well, because they really do isolate Lain a lot in the actual anime. Like, in essence, how she doesn't really kind of... She fits more outside of the entire, like, world of the anime itself. She doesn't really... She's not... You don't really kind of get that impression. She's a part of, like, the world. It also kind of feels quite empty as well. Which I'm guessing is kind of hinting at the idea of actually her escaping to, like, or possibly escaping to the wide world. In essence, how it can in theory be classified as paradise, because the anime is kind of saying that she's very much to a point isolated. The shots hint at that, the idea of actually how the world is very much empty besides her a lot of the time as well. It's all kind of, it's done through the lens of the camera. It's not told you through dialogue, by the way, I don't feel a part of this world anymore. It's telling you through the idea of camera work, which is the best thing to do. It's show don't tell. And shows should actually do that way more often, but they don't. I'm like, bruh. Just you need that show don't tell. That show don't tell is the good shit. But yeah, it's a very good episode. It's a very good opening to the actual entire anime because it tells you straight away what you need to know. I believe so. I need to actually pause it to actually get to the next episode. So I was actually to play all, didn't I? Ah! There we are. We paused it. I pause this one as well. Give me 5 seconds while I actually completely restart everything up. So yeah, I mean, essentially, this show very much mirrors the mood of the 90s, essentially, because this is also telling of the 90s as well, which is when Y2K was about to happen. So even more so, this show kind of doesn't very hint at the idea of actually like how the world is fast developing, actually how everyone's getting on board with this whole entire idea, but at the same time it's the idea of actually what can transpire on there as well, which is very, very cool. So yeah, I mean, it'd be one of those my nose is really itchy today for some reason. It's one of those ones that you can actually understand. Anime is very good. It kind of went by really fast. It's one of those ones that I imagine will never kind of age because actually how much you can also then attribute it to today. Actually, how you can attribute it to today as well, because it does kind of feel very much like how we're slowly looking at the idea of actually how the internet's advancing to a point that you kind of are escaping to this reality, but is it the best reality to escape to, essentially? But anyway, we'll start episode 2 in 3, 2, 1. Start this episode absolutely now. But yeah, it's what you would actually kind of associate with that era of media. Actually try to remember any other films that did that as well, but there's loads. The problem, because the internet was kind of a bit more prominent in the end of the 90s, but it was still kind of in its infancy, like not like now, essentially. It's one of those ones that you'd actually kind of you actually can see how the world looks at the idea of the internet in that era before the whole entire boom happened of the internet itself. But yeah, it's a very cool anime. It's very product of its time, but also very times at the exact same time. So shows don't really kind of do this very often. At least anymore, because they don't really get the idea of actually looking at the idea of the advancing world in a very kind of scary way. You don't get that so often nowadays. It's not as if it's not as if anything's advancing to the point that you're not scared of it. So kind of one of those ones that you kind of imagine there would be more media about it, but it's not so much as there was back in the day. Oh. Oh. But yeah, the direction of the show is really damn good. Every single shot actually has a purpose. It's actually kind of cool as well. It feels so weird being 23 and actually experiencing the entire change of like how the internet came to be and actually how it came and the rise of prominence of the internet as well. I pretty much lived through like the whole entire change. It's kind of weird when you think about it, looking back on everything. Oh. I do actually like how hand drawn the actual backgrounds are. It clashes a lot with the foreground. It kind of creates an immediate disconnect from like how the world like is in a way. Even the shadows as well really do actually kind of create like an even more like kind of definite meaning. It's very cool. also kind of feel like this show is a show that actually can be made in the 90s as well, because it's when this mood kind of was at its peak, essentially. So when I say you don't get stuff like this so often nowadays, when it kind of looks at the idea of the advancing world and actually how scary it can be, it's because, I don't know, it's a weird thing to explain, but it's kind of like, in that era, it was kind of to the point that it would actually you kind of would not know what's going to come. Essentially nowadays, there's something to counteract it, in a way. I'm so glad as well. I actually did want to watch this show with people as well, so I'm actually glad everyone else actually can come along and watch. As soon as YouTube comes back, I actually will stream this on YouTube. Just I had to stream it on here for a little while because of the issue of YouTube at the moment. Ow! Bro, you'd be vibing on a complete different plane of existence at that point. That is what you call the bad vibe. Bro, flip phones. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. God, I remember the days of like black and white screens. God, those were the days. Man, when you think about it, that computer she's got is probably like half of your iPhone at this point. Oh. The way the shots are framed and the way the shots are actually constructed and the way the shots are actually then presented, it kind of gives a completely different mood. It's kind of scary in some ways. It doesn't feel natural, if you get what I mean. It feels very very unnatural to an extent. It's like that kind of like, it's a normal scene, but it's presented in such a way that it kind of feels almost outside the realms of what you know, essentially. Just put my microphone back up. It is very iconic, the pajamas, though. The pajamas are very iconic. Christ almighty, though. that Tower of Power. I guess Siri technically counts as Navi nowadays anyway. I actually had Navi from Zelda as my Siri, though. It shows very scary actually to a point as well. But it's scary in a kind of more like grounded way, I guess. And I guess is the best way to describe it. It's not overt like horror. It's more the horror you know, essentially. That'd be really cool though. To actually have that as well. But no way, having Navi as your actual Siri would be kind of cool though. Oh? Oh? To be continued. Very, very interesting. Very scary as well, to be honest. That is the mood. Is this supposed to be hinting more at who Lain actually is, I guess, in a way? Or the idea of actually the connections that, I guess, what the wide actually is, as well. Because again, it kind of is one of those things that it hints at the idea that it's one thing to actually be on the wide, but it's actually essentially another thing to actually kind of be on the wide, like, so to speak. Same thing with the internet as well, how we know it. How we know the actual kind of like the use of the internet versus like the use of the internet, essentially. I guess it kind of does it does sort of, like, in some ways, in a very kind of overt way. It's not really kind of like more covert way than overt. It's not to the same degree, but it can in theory to a degree like mirror how the internet does in theory, actually how the internet is an influence as well, and actually also what it can in theory do. But again, it's one of those things that I guess as time goes on, we'll probably learn more about how this whole entire thing works. Actually, possibly then how it can in theory then possibly also mirror more of our own world. Yeah, it's fear of losing privacy, essentially, because it kind of does feel like a lot of things that how we know what goes on today, because the fear of privacy is kind of a massive thing in today's society as well. Like, we got away from it for a little while, but it sort of just came back out of nowhere, and actually now VPNs are kind of existing to actually be that kind of like, to actually kind of be the middleman to actually kind of keep us safe, but then again, is it safe enough? The same thing applies then with the idea of actually how they do, in theory, look at the idea of the Wired as well, and actually how the Wired is this place where you can actually make friends, but it's one of those things of whether or not the friends that you make and actually how you get on there and actually all the things you do on there is kind of the best thing to do. Same thing that we know today, actually how the internet works. So it's a lot of the things that this show poses in its own society, which is when this whole entire thing was actually kind of like in its infancy, is something we know but accelerated essentially. We've hit the accelerated point in which this anime actually exists in, essentially. So what they're fearing is what we know today, essentially, in a way. Yeah, essentially. Nowadays, you don't really have the commodity of actual like absolute privacy. And I guess it's kind of like something that is once again a massive sticking point of the internet itself. But even more so, actually, how people are kind of getting like onto the internet, actually, what they do to actually get on there, because it's one of those things like how Lain kind of goes and actually says, I want a new Navi, and actually inside that room was like what, maybe 2-3 computers, and then like 5 different screens. And that kind of proves you there and then, like, the idea of the links that people do in Furry Go to actually kind of exist on this virtual world. And actually, what this virtual world doesn't Furry mean to them. Like, essentially, to a point, the virtual world the virtual world in some capacity, like maybe 10% capacity, isn't demonized. It's not a thing. It's essentially always inherently evil. There's actually good things that come from the virtual world. But to the point, also, there is this idea that it does pose a kind of a massive threat. It's a very scary place. And actually, having someone kind of go all to those lengths, actually kind of get on and actually do all these things, it kind of worries you as well, because it's one of those things of like, what happens on there, like, essentially, especially in that kind of era, because we don't really necessarily know, like, essentially what everyone was kind of going through at that point, because how everyone kind of reacted to the whole entire idea of the internet is very different. We have our own kind of like understanding, actual own experiences with the internet. But to actually see it then through a different lens, it kind of tells you the anxieties that everyone had, the idea of actually what it can in theory possess, what would happen if this whole entire thing were to actually kind of like become more of a sustained thing in society. And actually, the whole entire thing of the internet itself is a very interesting concept. Like, it's a very interesting idea, because even though we're living in the kind of like the future of like how this anime actually started in, we still don't necessarily know the entire lengths of the internet. We don't necessarily know everything about the virtual or the wide world. We don't know everything about it. To actually kind of see through the lens of like an anime that's experiencing it just from the start of it is inherently very fascinating, because it's one of those things that tells you a lot about what everyone feared, actually what everyone knew to actually be the possible future, and actually also then what the virtual world can in theory do for someone as well, because again, it's kind of highlighting this idea of the isolation that Lain actually feels. She's actually very much outside, as I said beforehand in the actual episode 1 stream, how she does in theory feel like there's just not much around her, essentially. She's very much just kind of like, she exists in a way, which is the best way to describe it. She exists, but she kind of just, a lot of the shots kind of hint at the isolation she feels is kind of using a lot of like very long shots, instead of using close-ups. The close-ups actually uses isolates even more, but even the long shots they use tend to actually kind of isolate it a lot even more so. Essentially, like, in essence, it kind of highlights this idea of actually the possible escape that she's actually kind of looking for, but using the lens of a camera rather than for the idea of dialogue, because, technically speaking, how Lain reacts to the world itself is very much different to actually how the world is placing her into it, essentially. That's what I'm trying to get at. But yeah, it's kind of interesting, because, again, it's one of those things that the internet is kind of it's a very double-edged sword, essentially. How I said beforehand, how to a degree it's a place that can in theory pose good, essentially, in certain capacities, but also to the degree it's a very harmful place. And actually one of those things that we're seeing it through this lens as well. The idea actually the place that they don't know what can actually in theory happen in the future. It's a very all-go kind of show, but it's also a very fascinating show that actually kind of examines things that were very much a part of that society, and also technically today as well, to a degree, because we technically are still living in the future that we still don't necessarily know what's to come. though I said beforehand, we don't get much of this nowadays because there's always a kind of a counter to it, and essentially. There's always a kind of like, if there's something wrong, maybe one day a fix will come along and actually kind of fix it. But in this kind of era, or the era of Lain, there was no sense of idea of actually that fix because they're living in the world where it just started, essentially, or where it's kind of beginning. How everyone's kind of getting on it. To a degree, they don't really know necessarily the actual idea of actually how some things can be fixed. But in our own capacity, in our own world, we kind of do understand that certainly sometimes if there's a problem somewhere, 9 out of 10 times there actually will be a fix to it. So the idea of the anxieties that do in theory kind of come about still exists, but it's one of those things that possibly something will be implemented actually kind of then counteract it in a way. Is what I'm trying to get at. But yeah, it's still a very interesting show that actually does in theory actually kind of give you a nice look into actually how 1998 actually viewed this whole entire world. And actually, it's one of those things I always appreciate shows like this and movies like this because again, I've always had a fascination with the idea of the paranoia, the idea of actually not knowing what's to come. It's always been one of those things I've always kind of liked because I've always found it interesting actually how people found what the future would actually be like, essentially, is what I'm trying to get at. But anyway, yeah, we'll end the stream there for today. We'll probably cover some more of this tomorrow, actually. Do episode 3 and 4 tomorrow, and actually as time goes on, do more. Don't know. I think the anime series starting the 3rd of July. So I still think we've got a little ways to go actually until we actually kind of watch the new shows. We actually can watch this for a little while longer. So we'll end the stream there. We'll also then end the stream in Japanese as always. If I actually find out where it is. Right. But yeah, it's a very good show. Even the opening shots, even the shots themselves, the shot construction was fantastic. The direction was amazing. The animation's top notch. Even the goddamn like colors were amazing. But if it's also any other shows you want me to watch as well, do tell me if it's any other ones you want to watch. But also be wary that I exist in a country that has a very kind of like double-edged sword when it comes to licensing. Like in essence, this was easier to find, so was Higurashi and stuff like that. But stuff like Techno Lies, which I wanted to watch as well. There's loads of other ones as well that don't actually have licenses over here, so I actually can't watch them. So I actually go to like kind of lengths to actually go and find it. But if you ever want to be watching another show and doing for tell me, actually we'll do my best to actually kind of find it. It's just whether or not actually we'll be able to find that's the issue. So anyway, we'll end the stream off in Japanese as always. So let's find it. So ご視聴ありがとうございます。僕の動画を面白いと思ったら、いいねやチャンネル登録をお願いします。I'm actually very glad you actually enjoyed it as well. Thank you for actually being here as well. I wanted to actually really watch Techno Lies as well, but it's gone. Like, the UK doesn't actually have a complete license for it. Not even a goddamn, not even a DVD license anymore. Not even a Blu-ray license. It's just completely gone. It exists on Funimation, but it's region locked to America only, so I can't watch it. Which sucks. But alas, that is how England works when it comes to licensing issues. It's a massive issue over here. Evangelion was kind of like MIA for 20 years until it kind of just randomly surfaced on Netflix and now actually has an official release coming out. But anyway, if you have enjoyed this whole entire stream as a whole on Twitch, then do leave a follow on Twitch because indeed there's only quite a bit. If you have enjoyed this whole entire stream as a whole on YouTube, it just came as the stream's ending. Oh, so it's actually not just England as well then, because England had a really bad issue with Ava. Ava was terrible over here because we had DVDs, but they're really overly priced. No, sorry. But if you actually have enjoyed this whole entire stream doing free, leave a like on YouTube as well, because it helped me quite a lot. If you have enjoyed then the stream as a whole on YouTube and doing free, leave a sub because indeed it's been quite a bit. If you have enjoyed this whole entire stream as a whole on YouTube and doing free, leave a follow on Twitter, or join Discord as well, because both do help me quite a lot. Both then tell you when new streams are live and any other streams I do as well. But next time, some more serial experiments Lain. See you later. Bye for now.